Star Trek Voyager Season 3 Episode 16 Blood Fever is the worst episode of the entire show. It's awkward, weird, horny, and just a big pile of shit. It feels like they needed an episode to fill a week and quickly threw this together and flushed it out. As if they were in the writer's room and thought, how about we do Amek Time again but make it even weirder? This video is going to be more of a recap than a review. Mostly because there's only so many ways I can say something is bad. And mostly because I just want to share my thoughts on this episode with the internet. So no good us waiting for the sun to explode. Let's talk about Blood Fever. We start off with Vorik the Vulcan. He approaches B'Elanna and he's like,
This opportunity to declare Kunant Solik, my desire to become your mate.
What?
At first you're thinking, okay, maybe this is going to be one of those slightly humorous episodes, with an A plot involving some light-hearted character drama, and a B plot where they go down to some planet for some reason, and then at the end it all ties nicely together. B'Elanna rejects Vorik's advances, but that's when the episode takes an immediate turn. Instead of handling it like a gent, Vorik doesn't take no for an answer, gets pissy and assaults B'Elanna, who rightfully decks him. Cue opening titles. What the fuck? You're sitting there listening to the theme thinking, well, that was a bit uncomfortable. Turns out Vorik is going through the Ponfar, which for the non-virgins watching is basically when like a Vulcan is like a dog on heat and can't control their emotions. They basically turn into a Redditor. And as Voyager is millions of miles away from the Vulcan homeworld, Vorik thought he'd try his luck with B'Elanna. They go to the doctor who tells him, yo, you need to chill, let me give you something. But Vorik suggests that he'll use meditative techniques, which kind of sounds like a Vulcan expression for having a wife. The doctor then has a chat with Tuvok, who is also a Vulcan, and asks, how do we solve a problem like Vorik? Tuvok, rather than suggesting a cold shower, is basically like, fuck all we can do, I'm gonna let it ride. So then part of the episode turns into a quest to rid Vorik of his biological urges. And it's like, is that really what we're doing in this episode? I find the acceptance of Vorik's behaviour so strange. I know Star Trek is all about accepting other species and different cultures. And yeah, Vorik is acting on biological instincts, but it all just seems a bit dodgy. I suppose in this episode he's mostly out the way, chilling in his quarters. But it's not like we have a moment where Janeway gives him a talking to. Something like, we know you're a Vulcan and all that, but this is a multicultural ship, so sort yourself out. Cisco probably would have just chucked him out the nearest airlock.
There is a limit to how far I'll go to accommodate cultural diversity among my officers, and you've just reached it.
Eventually, the Doctor tries to set Vorik up with a holodeck AI goth GF. At first, Vorik is like, nah man, you're joking. But with the tiniest bit of persuasion from the Doctor, he changes his tune and he's like, go on then. And it seems to do the job. Or does it? No, it doesn't. Meanwhile, B'Elanna, Paris and Neelix have to beam down to a seemingly deserted planet, and surprisingly have to search a cave to get some shit for the warp engine or whatever. It's not really important, but there's an extra spanner in the works as somehow Vorik has telepathically given B'Elanna his horniness, causing her to start acting up, and she takes a little nibble out of Paris. Which is some Klingon mating thing or something. I don't know, Star Trek's fucking weird, man. Other quick plot points for context. Neelix, being a useless bastard as usual, fucks up his legs, so Chakotay and Tuvok have to beam down. The planet isn't deserted, as we find out. And B'Elanna, being all shook up, starts a fight with one of the inhabitants and causes a cave-in. Or there's like earthquakes or something, I don't know, it's a bit confusing. B'Elanna and Paris end up getting stuck in a cave together, which leads to exactly what you think. B'Elanna starts laying it on thick, pretty much throwing herself at Tom, and hyperventilating for some of that Paris-ness. She'd honestly give Bonnie Blue a run for her money. Our man Tom Paris, though, being the good lad he is, says, nah, it's not right, love, I'm not taking advantage. I have to commend the performances of Roxanne Dawson and Robert Duncan McNeil. I can only imagine what was going through their heads when they were acting this out. Like true professionals though, they play it with complete conviction. People like to knock or sometimes make fun of Star Trek actors, but come on, could you imagine Meryl Streep pulling off a horny Klingon? And not like that. They reunite with Tuvok and Chakotay, who made a deal with the inhabitants to help hide themselves better from a yet known enemy. But we'll get to that. None of Paris's gentlemanness mattered anyway, as Tuvok tells us they can't beam B'Elanna up because communications are down. So Paris needs to have sex with B'Elanna, otherwise she'll die. Okay. Tuvok is a bit of a knobhead in this episode. Seems very biased towards his Vulcan ways and traditions. Everything that comes out of his mouth is just agreeing or letting the situation happen. Yeah, there's the whole ticking clock element, and B'Elanna could potentially die through lack of vitamin D, but he offers no alternatives to anything. It's always, this is a Vulcan thing, so I'll allow it. So B'Elanna and Paris walk off into the bushes to get jiggy with it, and we get the most awkward display of what can only be described as foreplay ever put to screen. But just before they get all hot and heavy, big episode plot twist, Vorik shows up, catches them in the act, and he's pissed off, man. We find out that he didn't get down and dirty with his ChatGPT girlfriend and still wants to make B'Elanna his dummy mummy. He cheekily beamed down and is the one who cut communications with Voyager. How he managed to do all this by himself, God knows. Vorik invokes the Kiki Labubu, or whatever the fuck it's called, which is some Vulcan thing where he wants to fight Paris to make B'Elanna his mate. The overacting from the guy playing Vorik is such a distraction. Calm down, man, it's Voyager, not Shakespeare. Jesus. The episode delves into that uncomfortable territory again when Vorik starts making demands of B'Elanna. I've spoken about how this kind of makes sense in the context of the Star Trek universe, but it's still dodgy. B'Elanna's having none of it though, and she's like, I'll fight you myself, you little bitch. Chakotay tries to keep the peace, but Tuvok, being the wise senior Vulcan officer, goes,
They are following their instincts, and I suggest we allow them to do so.
You mean let them fight?
It is logical.
Nice one, Tuvok, yeah. See what I mean about him just letting shit happen? What follows is one of the most awkward fights in Star Trek history. Terribly shot, a complete rush job. Worf getting hit by a fucking barrel was more dramatic. Seriously, take away the over-the-top music, and it's just two people rolling about grunting. Anyway, after their little scrap, they manage to get it all out of the system and get back to Voyager. Vorik faces no consequences for his actions, and B'Elanna and Paris have a bit of cheeky banter in a turbo lift, which kind of sets up their future relationship. So all's well that ends well. But do you remember me saying how the inhabitants on that planet were hiding from someone? Literally, in the last minute of this episode, what do we get? A tease of the Borg returning. Seriously. We get confirmation that the Borg are in the Delta Quadrant in an episode which revolves around B'Elanna wanting to get a fuck on. What a fucking bombshell. And that is Blood Fever. Just terrible. Badly written, badly shot, slightly misogynistic. Characters make stupid decisions, and even with the episodic nature of Star Trek, feels completely pointless. All in all, one of the worst episodes of the entire franchise. I suppose it's definitely memorable, and you can watch it for a laugh, but beyond that, there's little to get out of it. Although saying that, this could be someone's favourite episode of Voyager, and all the power to them, even if they are wrong and should be locked up. So yeah, it's a pretty bad episode. And just a weird fact to end on, this episode was directed by Andrew J. Robinson, who plays Garrick on Deep Space Nine. So there you go. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll be back with more videos soon, maybe some more Star Trek ones. But until then, take care of yourself, and I'll see you again.